obviously we've already answered this pretty much, you know. Are elections free and fair? Well, to me, it's a yes and no, because we've seen again, like with primaries, a lot of election malpractice already taking place. People are openly giving money to voters. That's voter buying. We've seen a lot of violence. One interesting thing that cropped up was some youth from Kampala claiming they're from People Power, but they were going to influence the NRM vote so that the weaker candidate can go through. And when the weaker candidate goes through, then their candidates have a better chance. And I thought that's kind of like mass fraud, really. So both sides of the coin, their fingers are dirty. And I don't think we can ever clean up if this carries on. We see a lot of voter intimidation. We see a lot of candidate intimidation by the godfathers. The declaration of results themselves, late night results not turning up. We saw the violence in Mbale. We saw the violence in Ishingo or wherever in Western Uganda. So I really don't think we've got to that point where elections are free and fair, and the problem lies with all the political players, really, not just the government, but the opposition themselves as well. Because if you want better, then I would have thought you would start by being exemplary, you know, and obviously in the case of the NRM, I don't think really that's the interest, whether it's not the interest from the top, but it's not the interest for certain individuals that are living very comfortably. Charles, if you can come in as well, are elections free and fair, do you think?
Definitely not. I don't even have to think of it. Elections are not. Elections in Uganda have never been free and fair, never. In fact, they're getting less and less free and fair. In fact, if you look at the primaries, first of all, let's talk about one thing. Why did they change from a secret ballot to lining up behind the candidates? And when did that change take place? And by the way, is it, while we are at it, is it provided for in the Constitution? That's question number one. And I don't think it is. And if that's the case, it means all these primaries they've held is actually null and void. If there was a clever lawyer somewhere, they could have actually.
I think you just gave Mabirizi another job to do.
I'm pretty sure if there was a clever lawyer who has their wits about them, they can put forward a very credible case to make sure that, you know, all these primaries they've held so far is null and void. Because the Constitution, I'm pretty sure, provides for a secret ballot, you know, because the times when the Constitution provided for people lining up behind candidates, this was when we were doing individual merit, yeah, and that time is gone. We have not had any constitutional amendment. We have not had anything like that in Parliament. So when did that change occur? So I'll put that there. People will understand, or if maybe I've misunderstood the situation, I can be corrected.
No, you're absolutely right. You're speaking, it's the truth. It's the truth you're speaking there. I absolutely agree with you. And it goes to highlight the dictatorial nature of the regime as well, in a sense, sadly. You know?
I agree. But then what's even more worrying to me is that so even within the primary of one party, you would expect that the party machinery falls behind every candidate, yeah? But that's not the case. Actually, if you look at the NRM system, you'll find that there are some candidates who are actually closer to the power than the others. Now, if you happen to be closer to the center of power, it means basically you have more resources, you have better contacts, and your system is much more secure. So you can call on help at any time when you need it. Whereas if somebody is not close to the power base, then they will not have that. So So we saw in the recently concluded election that, candidates. This is still the NRM primaries. We haven't even come to the opposition primaries yet. Within the NRM system, you'll find that there are some candidates who are, in quotes, preferred by the system. And if you fall within that category, it means all the machinery will be thrown behind you to make sure that you sail through. Whether it means your candidate's candidature is, is tarnished by some, some statement issued by the electoral commission or whatever it takes.
Let's hit the nail on. Let's hit the nail on the head and bring in and yeah, because I think
right.
that's what you're trying to beat around the bush with.
I think
so let's lay it out there.
So,
but I think the NRM is paying for that in the sense that they're losing members because of that practice. Because the same this goes back to the Godfather practice we're talking about, and I think there's a lot of frustrated NRM party members that are now finding love somewhere else. So in a sense, they're weakening their own system.
I agree, totally. I agree. Now, you see, they've got this policy which says if you have participated in the primaries and you lost, you cannot now put yourself forward. But if I feel as a candidate that I've not had a good run, I've not really been treated fairly by the system, then why should I bear the brunt of, being, elbowed out of the race by this unfair system? I think if it was me, I'll put myself forward to be, adjudicated upon by the voters. Of course, you might still lose, but then you see, that will make a statement, because the statement you're making there is that you need to be treating people fairly all along, which I don't think they're doing. And of course, we know that there are some people whose candidature is closer to the power base, and the Electoral Commission have tended to favor them. I'm not talking about here, but I'm talking about some people who have benefited from resources and the patronage which is offered by the central government, and central government being the NRM, because the two are indistinguishable at this moment in time. So I'm talking about people like, Lillian Abe, they are directly linked to that system. I mean, there are questions put forward to her, and actually, I think we've got to the stage whereby we now should be looking to invite some of these members on our show, so that we start putting straight questions to them, and all three of us will be like, putting questions to the candidate in turn to make sure that we don't leave anything. And I think the benefit will be that these candidates will speak freely. We'll give them ample time, and then the voters will see exactly what these candidates have to say. We should take that up next time. What I was going to say about Lillian Abe was she was while campaigning, she mentioned that one of the primary things that she wants to do when she gets elected is that she will work with the first son to bring development to the north. Now, development, okay.
She's married there, isn't she?
I'm not sure. I don't know. But I think her father comes from there. Her father comes from there.
No, I think she's married there as well, if memory serves me correctly. I don't know if the husband is a one Richard or somebody. I could be totally wrong, but there's somebody there's a female contesting in the north that is married to the hierarchy in some sense, and I don't think a lot of people are aware of this.
I was of the, well, I gathered information to the effect that her father happens to come from the West. So why she should be contesting in Kitgum municipality of all places defeats me. Maybe they've lived there to such an extent, to such a long, for such a long time, that they have now blended in, I'm not quite sure. I mean, obviously, any Ugandan is free to contest in any constituency, and it is the voters to decide. But we've talked about this. If you come from somewhere, like Mbarara, and you come to live in Kitgum, first, second generation, you now speak fluent Acholi, and you can convince the voters to vote for you. Fair enough, you're still a Ugandan.
No, but the key question there, though, is she local to Kitgum? If she doesn't live in Kitgum and she's just a visitor, or she just went to school there, then she has no right.
I don't want to make statements that I'm not aware of. So I don't know where she lives, and I don't know who she's married to. But I was told that her father is not from Acholi. So, and her father is from the West. That should not preclude her from standing. Let's put it fairly. But if that's the case, the first question is, do the voters know this? Secondly, does she have ties to the constituency? Thirdly, what does what can she offer to the constituents in that area? Those are the three key points for me, anyway. Whether she, happens to be fathered by Anacholi or not is immaterial.
That's when it goes. I told you about the address thing. If you have a permanent address, that should be the bottom line for anybody to claim that I belong.
It's just locality. Yeah. Just be local and be present. So, Harry, if you can give us your comments, please. Elections free and fair. Because time is against us now.
Being local, I can come rent, then I kind of clown around, then you think that I'm local. Like, sorry to say, like the way you see Christopher in Gulu, the activist, he comes around, clowns around, and goes back to Kampala. No,
I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted when it comes to these geographical issues. So yeah, if you can make your comment on elections free and fair, please.
That statement is now being used. Is it free? No. It involves cash, money at hand. That's what you have been seeing. Every popular politician, you just see bundles of money. So that one defeats the definition of free, because it's too costly. Like as we've been saying, any newcomer into arena or any eloquent, or maybe that time of free and fair ended maybe around when like Mao was coming into the arena, because he almost had nothing.
It wasn't even free, because I remember Mao saying Chamato Bolki Mao. So it technically means Bigombe was giving money.
Yeah, on the other side it wasn't. Yeah, it was actually, it's not free and fair, because like I said, this thing involves money. So if you're the new guy in arena who has no backing or income, yeah, you face it rough. You just be look like as a by the way. So on the fair side of it, it's both yes and no, because whensoever pass like the Chamatoro side, Chamatoro Bolkimao, okay, if like the loaded candidate loses, that's fair and unfair at the same time. It's fair. It's fair on the winner's side and unfair on the loaded guy's side. And if the loaded guy wins, it's both unfair.
No, but then it's unfair to the voters as well, because then technically we are selling our liberty.
That's
so in a sense, then it means we're not really having anything close to fair and free elections. We're just and then the trouble is, when these people buy us and they go, we still want to shout foul when they're not giving us back because they're recouping their money.
True.
So I think one thing which was mentioned about this business of giving out money, which I think most people haven't seen, is that when someone comes to dish out money, you have to ask yourself, where have they got this money from? It might be their own savings, or they may have actually gone and got a loan from the bank. So when they eventually get elected, they've got to pay back that money.
Exactly.
So what's going to happen is they will work so hard to pay that money off first before they can even look at you. So really,
Exactly.
if anyone is coming to buy you off, you as a voter should look at it as this is one of the biggest jokes ever, because
Exactly.
the person is going to succeed by giving you whatever they've got, and then run off, try to pay it off later on, and then you won't see them again until when it's election time. So I think it's a clear thing that we should reject anybody who involves themselves in dishing out money for votes, because that is a recipe for disaster. We should not
It
accept it.
is. It is. And I think with the voters taking responsibility as well, and attaching no price. There's no price to your freedom. There's no
Exactly.
price to that vote you're casting. No amount of money
Can buy it.
can buy that. You
So
know what I mean?
yeah, going back to the unfairness, like the way we have seen this primary around, there are some constituencies where it has really been fair, because if you see like an incumbent being kicked out, that shows that, okay, voters, because by being fair, voters have to be awakened. So by awakening voters, that's when you can see that's the fair side of it, even if some other constituencies haven't got the memo yet. But where we have seen, because how many ministers have been kicked out? Almost
Quite a
close to
few.
20. So
Yeah.
that shows how.
So in a sense, then it's still, in a sense, then what you're saying is voters do learn their lesson, and then next time around, much as they take your money, they're not necessarily going to vote for you.
That's it.
Okay, so that's fair play then. If we can conclude, because time is against us, guys. Can we expect a peaceful 2021 election?
I doubt very much from my side. I think that might be one of the violent elections yet to be witnessed. Why do I say that? The reason being, there's too much at stake between the parties. The NRM, first of all, is trying to push to wipe out the opposition. But of course, we have the existing opposition fighting for their space and not succeeding in others, but succeeding in other areas. Obviously, there's also new kids on the block, the NUP and the People Power contingent. And I think the way we see it, the only way that there will be peaceful elections in 2021 is if we see that there is fair play on all sides. If the government decides to limit things like radio station appearances by the opposition, the movement by opposition being restricted under the cover of COVID, you should know for a fact that the supporters of these individuals or parties are going to rise up. Whether they're rising up fairly or unfairly is immaterial, because the fact is they will not be happy to see their candidates being silenced. And I think I can see that if we do not see sense, and we haven't seen sense, because the police have been very biased in the way they've handled opposition. The police have looked the other way when the government officials have been committing crime. But when you are from the opposition and you do something very trivial, you are taken in straight away and actually beaten up. So if that continues, then I can see that obviously, the playing field will not be level, and it can only, make for a very, very uncertain and very violent future, I'm afraid to say.
Okay, thank you, Harry. If you can comment, please.
Talking of being unfair, definitely that's a no, because we have already witnessed it even before primaries. Opposition candidates are not being allowed even to have any start away from consultation. They are not given opportunity to go for consultation. They have to sneak in, even going for barriers. That's kind of like the new kind of thing in Uganda, where people pass their political messages. They have been denied that opportunity. Then going into like on the ruling side of it, you know, the minister or those who have in ministerial or like ministerial posts, because you know you have to be almost an MP to be considered a minister. So they're doing tooth and nail to fight to go back so that they can keep on having that cake. Then 2, 3, the candidates, the incumbents, whether opposition or ruling, you know, that's a meal card for whoever is in parliament. Honestly, to say there's nothing that's being done in parliament other than just a source of employment. So they are fighting tooth and nail to retain that job security. Then when it comes like to the new kids of the block, that, as you said, newcomers, youth they feel so much frustrated, whereby they've been left out or being taken for granted. So this time alone, seeing in a youthful candidate, it's like the poor and the youth have kind of awakened up that they're being so sensitive in what's happening into the politics. We can see the effects in some of the primaries, whereby because before, if you're a minister or incumbent MP, it was almost like a obvious case. But you see at primaries, more than 20 ministers have been drowned. Then another thing, Buganda has never been so much involved into political arena. So they've always claimed that they are one of the key players. So having a vibrant, youthful candidate there, that's kind of making this thing. You see how like they're social media wise, physically wise, or internet wise, they're trying to attack with verbally anybody who try to talk against that
So
candidate.
basically, in a nutshell, you're saying we shouldn't expect a peaceful election. But I think for me, we shouldn't really expect a peaceful election for the sheer fact that a wrong has already been done. And this wrong has been done by the lifting of age limits. And I think for a lot of Ugandans who are switched on, these elections don't even make sense whatsoever, because it's not speaking our voice anymore. I'm sorry to say, but that's exactly how I feel. It's not speaking our voice anymore, in a sense that you have people in power who are so detached from our reality. And this is why we see the NRM scrambling to win back youth support. But they create this problem for themselves because they have neglected the youth so long, and unfortunately, the opposition doesn't get it. But even youth who are affiliated to the NRM, they're frustrated and they're feeling neglected. It's just the trouble is the hard line that the opposition decide to adapt, where they want to say it's us against them. So I think the opposition is doing themselves no favor by failing to accommodate sort of a wider spectrum. And I think that's where they're going very wrong with all these things. And then now you have these people, they're frustrated by the NRM, you're rejecting them. So now they're lost. They rather stick with the devil they know. So then they're gonna fight. And this is exactly what we should expect from 2021. It's because most of the NRM youth are actually very elite, unfortunately, because they have had the better education, they've had the better opportunities. So they're quite knowledgeable and very resourceful. And because the opposition decides to sideline them and kick them to the curb too, just like their own party, what's going to happen is they're going to go back to their own party. And I don't think the opposition stand any chance whatsoever. And that's the unfortunate situation. And that's what is very likely to break out the violence from these 2021 elections. Guys, time is against us now. If we can just have very brief concluding remarks, please.
I'll go first, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Concluding remarks. This has been a very important topic. It's, one that actually, looks at the very existence of the body politic of the country. Even though we have only looked at the NRM primaries, they are the ruling party. We would have expected better. We are not seeing anything better. Unfortunately, anything else coming after this is unlikely to be any better. So I don't really see much hope in the politics as it is being conducted at the moment, right from the Electoral Commission through the electoral, the district levels, and it filters all through to the village level. I don't see any hope in what is to come, and I'm just praying that the country doesn't slide back into the violent past that we have already come away from. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlie. Harry, if you can conclude, please.
Man, this goes out like to the candidates, primaries. They shouldn't shy away from primaries. That's what we might say it's time to account for what they did in the last 5 years. Then when it goes to the newcomers, this is the time to communicate to the public and to strengthen their level from primaries through the major one. Then for oppositions, probably when it comes, they don't need to kind of do primaries nationwide, because I know there are some areas where opposition don't have candidates, but where they have their strongholds, it's okay. It's better to do primaries other than this business of hand picking, because hand picking is kind of like another way of dictatorship that, oh, it's like one person opinionated thought thinking that, okay, this candidate is much better off going in this way, not knowing there might be someone who might be better off. Okay, you might be eloquent at speaking, but then you might not be the right candidate to do the job. So that's what goes to opposition. Then when it comes to voters, voters should look at issues, not monetary, because when you go for the monetary side of it, you're selling away your soul. So it's like, just think about it. You've sold your soul, you've sold your kids' future for the next 5 years. 5 years, anything like time lost, time will never be regained. So that's all I could say.
Okay, thank you very much, Harry. Thank you, Charlie. Guys, that's been our time. Obviously, it's a very broad topic again, lots of issues to raise. We appreciate all those of you that stuck with us, and all those of you that continue to sacrifice your data to follow us. Thank you very much to the panelists. Thank you very much, Charles, for your contributions. Thank you very much, Harry, for your contributions. And we will have to conclude there. And let me wish Harry a good day in the US. It's still daytime. And Charlie, have a lovely evening. And in East Africa, guys, have a lovely evening. Thank you very much for being with us.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much.